Welcome back to the Fantasy Hockey Podcast, Unsustainable Wednesdays. Man, it's been a long time since I've gotten to say that. Feels kind of nice. Although...
Yeah, I mean, we went on hiatus in like March.
Gosh,
it's been a long time.
It's been a long... This is the longest we've ever gone without doing an Unsustainable in probably 4 years.
The history of the show, for sure.
Yeah, in our lives, it's been a long time. Like, this has become a staple of my own life at this point. I watch hockey, and I just think about Unsustainable. I'm not even joking. I literally will watch a game and think that guy's unsustainable. I want to see what he's doing and whether it makes sense or not. Like, that's how I watch hockey games. It's ridiculous. My whole life is centered around unsustainability or sustainability now. It's insane. You'd think I work it's in some kind of climate thing with how much I talk about it. Okay, so there's not a lot to go over in this week for Unsustainable, just because we don't have a lot of games under our belt. There are a few people to talk about, but because of that, what that'll mean is we're going to have less Unsustainably High and Unsustainably Low players, but we'll have a decent number of Sustainably High, Sustainably Low, because it is early enough to be able to make some judgments based on people that are high or low. It's harder to say that someone is unsustainable in either direction because we just don't really have enough data to go off of yet. Also, do you say data or data?
I feel like I say data usually, but it varies.
Data. Does your kid call you dada or dad? Oh, I guess it doesn't matter. It's the same either way. Never mind.
Dada.
Dada. People in Discord were calling us dads. We are not... If you listen to the show, we are not your dad or dads. Maybe we are your dads.
I think we actually are.
We are your dads. We are your dads. We had to step in a little Discord dispute, and everyone was, called us dads. So I guess we are your dads. Weird. We have a lot of children.
2 dads.
Lots of children to look after. Anyways, let's look after you and take you into the Unsustainable episode. So I'll start first on Unsustainably High because I only have one person. It's really, for me, I know Brandon said he has some people, but for me, it was really, really hard to come up with anyone just because I don't want to give advice based on this just, low amount of data. It's just not... It's not easy, and I don't want to give advice like that. So I'm going to start off first with Justin Falk's defense, 9%. I think he's unsustainably high for a few reasons. One, he's getting absolutely no power play time. Right now, he's only played 4% of the team's power play time on ice. Insanely low. He's getting a ton more shots. Where he is looking good is his average time on ice. That's gone up from 20 minutes last season to around 23 minutes this season. So that is quite a bit of a jump and does help with that shot on goal pace. The problem is he has 2 goals. Shooting percentage 20%. Now, I know it's early to talk about shooting percentage, so I'm not going to act like it's this thing I'm going to go off of like crazy. But what I will say is that both of his points so far, people are probably picking up first points. Both his points have come on shots. And both of them have come on goals, obviously, right? And that's going to come down, obviously. His shooting percentage last season was 3.4%. The season before that was 5%. So he's obviously not going to stay in this 20% range, right? So that's got to come down. And I would expect his shot pace actually to stay high if he continues to get these minutes. But just from a point standpoint, I expect this to come down big time.
Yeah, I've got a handful. The first one, I feel like I'm cheating a bit because he hadn't even played a game by the time I listed him here. But there's been a lot of hype around him since even before the season because of his projected placement. And that's Kasperi Kapanen. He is pretty highly owned for a guy that didn't even start the season playing with anybody, and especially considering he actually started the season on the 4th line as opposed to the top right wing, which was expected. So he's sitting at 31%, and he actually got a point. He got a secondary assist in his first game in, but I'm just surprised that his ownership is already that high. So yeah, I also don't expect him to be getting points most games if he's going to be, especially if he's 4th line getting 10 minutes a game. My next one, I think he actually, so there's games going on right now. We're recording this Tuesday night, and one of the games going on is the Detroit game, and Bobby Ryan has yet another goal. Left wing, right wing, 9% owned. He's one of the highest added players right now. I actually sort of like his situation in a way with his power play 1 deployment, but his minutes just aren't there to sustain anything about what's going on with him.
Yeah.
So he potentially could become something, which is surprising considering he's 33. Which is interesting. Bobby Ryan's 33. It doesn't sound right, but he is.
But the thing is, though, he's scored 3 goals, not counting tonight's game, which is kind of insane. If I include tonight's game, it gets even more wild. He has scored 3 goals on 4 shots.
Yeah.
And how many shots does he have tonight? Make it 4 because this isn't including it. Now he has 4 goals on 5 shots and no assists
Yep.
with 13
That's how
minutes
you
of
do
ice
it, you
time.
know? Yeah, he only has 1 shot.
It's insane.
But, you know, if every shot you shoot goes in, then
you're good.
why do you need assists, right?
Yeah, exactly. Pick up.
That's how that works.
Exactly.
Simple math.
Simple math.
Simple math. Everybody's just been thinking too much. Just simple math. Anyway, sorry. My last one here is Samuel Girard. Defense 54%. Has a lot of points lately, and he's been getting them on the power play, which is not common considering he's power play 2 deployment on a team that, like, though is deep, their power play 2 is not going to see a whole lot of time, and even if they do, they shouldn't be producing at the rate anywhere near the rate they are right now. And I also don't, like, just judging by his history and the fact that he's in a pretty similar deployment, I don't see him shooting as much as he is right now. He's never been really a shoot first defenseman. Seems like he's just been able to find a lane very often lately, and I think both of those things are going to come down. I think he can still get decent peripherals off of him, but I have a feeling most people that have him on their team are looking for points.
Yeah.
And I just, as much as I like Sam Girard, I just don't see him being able to do that unless there's like a Makar injury and he winds up power play 1 or something.
And I think now with Bowen, I think it's Bowen Byram probably getting a spot too. I could see a chance where either they do 2 defensemen on that power play or Girard just loses it to Byram at some point. I could see that happening. I do like that Girard's minutes have jumped a little bit. He is seeing 50% of the team's power play time right now. And also a fun fact of the game's happening as we're recording this live. Winnipeg has tied it up to make it 3-3. Columbus has tied it up to make it 3-3 or 2-2. So with the empty net. So now we've got Winnipeg, the Winnipeg game, the Washington game, the Chicago game, and the Columbus game all currently tied with insane score lines. And let's see if the Rangers can tie it up too. So anyways, Sam Girard, yeah, I think just too high right now. He has 2 primary assists, 2 secondary assists, 1 primary assist so far, 2 power play points. Like you're saying, I think if these were even strength points, maybe I believe it a little bit more. But the fact that they're all power plays, for the most part power play, makes me buy it less.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anybody else on this? That's it. Okay.
Rant on Sus High, guys, yeah.
That's the rant on the Unsustainably High, guys. Wow, that word is hard after not saying it for so long. Unsustainably Low. We got PK Subban for me here is my first one. Defenseman, 34% owned. Now, he did get a point in tonight's game that's going on against the Rangers, but the thing with PK Subban to me is that he's someone to hold on to. He's not someone that I'm saying is going to just break out at some point. What I'm saying is that right now, everything is happening around him that would lead to points eventually. He's seeing 28 minutes of average time on ice a game. That's insane. He played 30 his first. I think it was 26 or 27 his second. He's shooting decent. His shots are down from last year, which kind of sucks with how much time on ice he's getting. But his power play percentage is actually 75%. So he's playing 75% of the power play time on ice. On top of that, if you're in a Bangers League, something that's getting me really excited about PK Subban is the fact that his hit pace has gone up like crazy. So last year, he was on a hit pace of 106 over 82 games. He's currently, and this is all assuming an 82 game thing, the tool we use to project all these things uses 82 games, so I need to switch this out to be at the end of the season. So the next one will be fixed. But if he were on a 82 game pace, he'd be at 246 hit pace, which is really, really good. And so if those hits keep up, he's just another reason to just kind of hold on to and wait. I mean, if he's getting 28 minutes a game, the points have got to come, I think.
Yeah. Honestly, I think we could actually keep talking about things in the constraints of 82 game seasons, because personally, that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah, to me
if you
too.
told me that he's gonna get like 100 hits this season, I'm like, okay, that's bad, but really it's pretty close to 2 hits a game or something.
Yeah.
So, all right, my first one, this is probably gonna be a bit of a hot take, is Mikko Koskinen at 54%.
I don't think that's
now.
A hot take.
I think this is
wait.
It's not necessarily for average.
This is unsustainably low. You're putting him on unsus low. Oh God. Okay, go.
Yeah, but it's because it's in context, right? In standard leagues where your averages, if you have save percentage and goal against average, he's not that good, obviously. But in leagues where you have saves or points leagues that heavily reward saves, he's going to get a ton of saves because they just can't stop anything in front of him. So especially in leagues that don't heavily penalize goals against, and I do think he's going to get some wins. Like obviously Edmonton have a lot of problems, but they can overwhelm with offense from time to time, and he will be at least the benefactor of that. So I think he gets more interesting depending on in certain points leagues, especially if you have a big reward for saves and not a huge downgrade for goals against, because who's backing him up, right? I don't know if most people listening to the podcast can name the backup right now. And you figured they probably would have claimed Aaron Dell, but New Jersey did. Yeah. So I don't even know who they're going to wind up with. It's a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
So because of that, he's going to get crazy. He might have the most start volume of anybody in the league right now. I don't see who else they can start. So that there is that in volume leagues, he's hard to find anybody better than.
That is fair. That is very fair. I have no more unsustainably low, so you can keep going if you have any.
Yeah, I've got a couple more. The next one is Charlie McAvoy, defense 89%.
I
know a lot of people were getting freaked out by him because there's a lot of hype on him getting power play 1 for reasons with Crew being moved out. But now with Grzelcyk, we don't know how long he's out, but I don't know if handedness is going to be enough to keep McAvoy away from that power play 1 slot anymore. You couple that with the fact that Pasta will be back soon-ish, obviously not quite yet, but it's on the horizon. Depending on what goes on with Grzelcyk, McAvoy could be in a great position. And I do think while he has power play 1 deployment, he's a very, very good defenseman for fantasy and in general. And then my last one, he's kind of rectified this just recently, and I don't think anybody has made any crazy moves in relation to this, I hope, but is Evgeny Malkin. I just heard some frustration and a couple trades floating around with his name involved. And you have to know that it's been 3 games and it's Malkin. He'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. And sure enough, I think he has an assist or a goal in this game. He has a goal, power play goal. So yeah, don't stress out. Don't trade away your high-end players early on. Feel good.
By the way, Mackenzie Blackwood has 47 saves this game.
Dude,
this is insane.
I honestly came into this season thinking that he and Blackwood are roughly the same skill.
You mean him and Wedgwood?
No, I meant him and Koskinen actually.
Oh, okay.
Were roughly the same skill. I thought they were both like dead average goalies, right?
Yeah.
And you can say something about Koskinen's complete lack of defense, but Blackwood is putting on a show night after night, and there's no other way to look at it. He's just been incredible.
You could say something about Blackwood's lack of defense by having 50 shots against tonight against the Rangers.
Yeah, that's true. Although I don't know how high quality they were. I haven't looked into the analytics about that, but I imagine that the Devils' defense, at least their system, is aligned in such a way that it makes it easier for him.
What is incredibly impressive, and it's just nuts to me, is he had 16 shots against on the power play. He stopped 14 of them. So that is impressive on its own, is the fact that power play save percentage is insane. So I gotta say, Blackwood is climbing. Are you done with Unsustainably Low, by the way?
I am, yeah.
Okay, so let's move into Sustainably High. I didn't have Blackwood on here, but honestly, at this point, I might need to put him on there. He's doing right now what Georgiev and Shesterkin did for the Rangers last year, taking the team that has no business being in a playoff contention spot and perhaps making them really, really interesting. He's now done it twice to the Bruins, just annihilated the Rangers, essentially. I gotta believe. I know I was low on him going into the season, but I can't look at these 3 games and say, damn, I don't know about this. When you do it against the Bruins and you do it against a high-powered Rangers team, you've got to actually pay attention. And now I'm sad I missed out on him because he is an absolute monster. And on top of that, he's getting you volume. He might be, if he continues this, he might end up being the best goalie in saves leagues this year. Outside of Vasilevsky.
Yeah, very true. He might even bet depending on the league setup, if
Yeah.
saves are more valuable than wins, he could potentially be better
I
considering
mean,
the start volume.
his save numbers are just insane. I don't know how long he can keep this up. Obviously, this also tires you out. It reminds me a little bit of Varlamov in Colorado at one point. He was averaging. Remember, there was this whole thing where every other game was like 40 saves, and he actually did better when it was 40-ish saves or more or something. I mean, yeah, it's just right now what Blackwood is doing is phenomenal, and I think if you are in a situation where you maybe already have a Vasilevsky or Hellebuck, I would maybe think about seeing what people would pay for Blackwood. Personally, I would just see.
Yeah.
Because I think there, with so many goalies right now being terrible, for example, myself, I'd have to at least listen or think about it because my goaltending is Koskinen, Talbot, and Bobrovsky. That's not exactly working out for me right now. And so there's teams like that, especially with so many goaltenders playing poorly, you might be able to get something. So, but he's also sustainably high to me. Anyways,
Yeah.
my
Well,
first.
speaking of that,
Go ahead.
I mean, considering we've talked about, I wanted to, because we mentioned him. One of the sustainably high players I had on here was Semyon Varlamov
Yes, that's a good one.
at 78%. Back-to-back shutouts.
Man.
I mean, there's just that. There's,
Why?
You know,
Why do we keep doubting the Trotz system? Why do people doubt the Trotz system? It makes no sense.
well, everybody side-eyes Sorokin right now, but Sorokin apparently.
Sorokin.
But what I would say about that is I think the Sorokin's shaky start might actually lean Varlamov into having a little bit more of that start share than was perhaps originally projected
Yeah.
for him. So, I mean, if he's going to play this well, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for the Islanders, who are probably a bubble team, to risk it by trying to advance Sorokin's development early on rather than, play him when necessary as opposed to play him as a 1B. So, and Varlamov, I mean, we've talked about him for 2 years now, maybe even longer. Just the system in general there, not necessarily Varlamov, but whoever is the starting goalie for the Islanders. So, yeah, he's was a great late round grab, continues to be, and now he might actually be more valuable in saves leagues as well, which was where he might have lost some value in some pools.
I mean, when you consider some of the people that went before him, some of the goaltenders that went before him, it was nuts. And so, yeah, I mean, you definitely probably got a steal if you were able to grab Varlamov this season because he was going way too late, in my opinion. So my first one here, I'm not going to go in depth on it because I mentioned him as a long-term target, and I just want to mention it again. We have this thing where sometimes we'll mention someone on Monday, people will be like, oh, well, do you still believe? And this is an episode where I get to go into stats a little bit more, so I like to go a little more in depth. And that guy's Alexander Romanov, defenseman, 33% owned. This guy is, to me, the real deal. He fills so many cats, so many holes. 273 hit pace, 164 block pace, 246 shot pace. He is doing it all right now. I would like to see some more points. He only has 2. But he looks incredible. And I could see him getting more opportunities as the season progresses. And the fact to me that he is doing what he's doing with only 18 minutes of time on ice means that he can only get better to me as the season progresses. I mean, imagine if Weber gets injured or Petrie gets injured, what could happen to Romanov there? He's already valuable as is. Even in my points league, he just has such a nice floor. He's a great fourth defenseman at minimum. For me, he's more of like a third defenseman, but even as a fourth, he's still worth it. So I have to shout him out again and put him here. And I will caveat that I have one more player I mentioned on Monday, but we'll get into that.
He also, I mean, him having 2 points is about as many as you'd expect, considering he's only played 3 games, to be fair.
It's still pretty good.
My next one is Vincent Trocheck, center, 22%. The thing that's held him back, and I mentioned this a couple times already, is lack of power play one time, which is where we saw the big dip in points from him, and time on ice. Those 2 things were really detrimental to him, especially when he moved to Carolina, where he did not get power play one and he did not get good ice time. What we're seeing now is the opposite of that. He's getting very good ice time, up to 19 minutes a game in certain cases, and is power play one. So what we're seeing is the Trocheck peripherals that we saw for essentially one season are back. He's shooting a lot, he's hitting, and he's getting points on that power play and off the power play, actually. With Stahl, now Carolina, 3 players have tested positive, so who knows what's going to go on with the COVID situation there. But Stahl was the first one to be out with COVID-related whatever. And with his absence, we saw Trocheck line up with Svechnikov, which I think is an interesting pairing. If there was a center on the team that's not Aho that I want to see Svechnikov with, it's Trocheck. Both for Svechnikov's good and for Trocheck's. So I think the fact that he's still only 22% is pretty interesting to me, and I think we're going to see that climb over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I picked up Trocheck today. Of course, today is when the game gets postponed. I like to think that it was my fault. Picked him up.
It was.
Of course, it was. I jinxed him. We know that the FHP curse exists. I cursed him. Sorry, guys. My next one here is from Montreal as well, and that's Nick Suzuki. Center right wing, 70% owned. High owned guy here, but I believe in him. I think he's someone that I could see people try to ship off because he's highly owned. He's young. People are like, yeah, well, maybe I can get something for him. 3 points in 3 games at the moment, so 82-point pace. If it was an 82-game season, obviously, a point per game. But I'm liking what I'm seeing. Shooting percentage in line. His shot pace has gone up. His minutes have gone up. He's not getting a lot of power play time. So that's the only thing that worries me a little bit about him. He has 2 points on the power play, and he's only playing 34% of the team's power play time. Not ideal, but at the same time, if your power play is working, you're not on the ice as much because the power play works, you score, and then you're off the ice. And that's technically a 1A, 1B. That's actually like a 1A, 1A power play in Montreal.
Yeah.
I still like Suzuki a lot. I think he's the real deal this season, so I'm not trying to sell.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Of all the Montreal guys, there's a lot of other guys. If I was talking about Josh Anderson, if I was talking about Toffoli, a lot of those guys I would be selling high. Tatar, maybe I'd hold on to. I'd probably hold on to Tatar.
I like Anderson a lot in bangers leagues, but
I like him in bangers leagues, yes. But Suzuki to me is the one like points guy that I actually do believe in Montreal.
All right, my last one here is Jacob Chikrin. Finally.
Yes.
Defense 44%. Now his numbers right now are not sustainable. He's all over the place. But with OEL out, he should get an extended look at that top power play, and we could see him continue to be top power play even with OEL back. They played with that a little bit in previous seasons. I think Chikrin's ready. You know, his peripherals have been very good as well. Very fun player to have if you took a flyer on him late in late round drafts. Another player that I think he's at 44% now, so he's not exactly a secret. And I think we're going to see that go above 50% probably by the weekend even. So he's going to be moving very quickly. If you need a defenseman, now's the time to be jumping on him, especially if you need peripherals.
There's a good chance you probably already missed out on him too if your league is smart. If your league is sharp, you probably already missed out, which I did in all my house leagues. There's no chance of getting him. I have one more here. My last one is Jack Hughes, who I talked about it also on Monday. But, I mean, we've got to believe at this point. He's played 3 games. I'm including now, I'm looking right now just at his last 2 games, but he did play tonight against the Rangers. Had a great game. I mostly just want to check his time on ice, which is interesting. So he had been playing about 22-ish minutes of time on ice. They brought that down against the Rangers to just about 17-ish, 16, 17 minutes. They played a really, really balanced lines against the Rangers. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they were up early, and so they started to play their checking lines a little bit more to stuff the Rangers, which tends to happen. But against the Bruins, he was playing 22, 23 minutes a game, which is insane for someone. His shot pace is still okay at 205, playing a huge majority of the team's power play time on ice. And all around, when you watch the game, aside from just the stat perspective, he passes the eye test as well. He looks amazing. He had one assist today and 2 goals. He is absolutely on fire. And I think at this point, you've got to actually ask, when Hischier comes back, do you take Jack Hughes off that top line? I don't know if you do. I think with this chemistry, you might leave him and put Hischier second line.
I think that So Jack Hughes, from all the players I've seen from season to season, you know, we're watching the beginning of these games, he looks like a different player. He looks
entirely.
so much stronger, so much sturdier. He's, you know, than what we saw. Way less timid, way more aggressive.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to see where he goes rest of the season. I mean, I don't think he's going to be like a big hitter or anything. I feel like he's going to be kind of a 0-calorie point getter in a way, which is fine. but it's just nice to see that he's breaking out and starting to show his potential.
Yeah. To me, I mean, he just looks so much more confident on the ice, so much more in control, I guess. Whereas last season, it felt like he was very reactive. Sometimes, you were watching games and you didn't really feel like, as in the game kind of controlled him. Whereas right now, it feels like he's controlling the game a lot more. I hope that kind of makes sense. But he just looks phenomenal. I remember watching the first game of the Bruins and the Devils, and immediately I was like, who is that on the ice? They look amazing. And they clearly stood out amongst all the Devils, and it was Jack Hughes. So I'm very, very high on him, and I think he's sustainably high. Okay, moving on to sustainably low. I'll let you take your first one there, since I just finished off the sustainably high.
Sure. My first one here, it's Tristan Jarry, 84%, but now I don't know what's going on. It seems like nobody really has it figured out in the Pittsburgh net. But regardless, I think given his draft position, he's still like, this isn't saying drop him, right? I'm not saying he's a drop candidate, but maybe he is in certain leagues. But he certainly does not hold the value that he was drafted at already. I think, Delia got the win. This actually, again, as we were saying, games are going on right now that just finished. Delia did get the win. Not Delia. DeSmith got the win. And, I don't really see the reason to go heavy starts on Jar anymore. And I think that was part of the reason people drafted him early, to have the starter on a team that, has the potential to get a good amount of wins. But it now sounds more like DeSmith might be the 1A and Jarry becomes a 1B, or they just start riding hot hands. And neither one of those scenarios is good for Jarry if you grabbed him in like the 6th or 7th round. So I just don't think he's going to come back to being the value of where he was drafted, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that as well, especially if I think they move, like you said, more to a 1A, 1B situation now than they did before. I wouldn't have expected that going in.
Yeah.
But I think that at this point, that seems much more likely that they go with more of a 1A, 1B type thing. So not great, like you said, for Jarry owners, who was taken relatively highly. I'm glad I got to Smith in my Dynasty League, though. Going to my first sustainably low is going to be, this one might ruffle a few feathers, but
Can't wait.
It's okay. Joel Farabee.
Oh, yeah.
One of the most dropped guys, but also still pretty highly owned. He's at 45%.
He shot up insanely. I get that there's a lot of quick reactions, and I get a 4-point game is, eye popping. But man, did he shoot up in his ownership numbers? Just crazy.
Just ridiculous. So he just played tonight. Tonight he played his 4th game of the season, and he has 4 points now on the season. 2 of those points are on the power play, and he's playing 23% of his team's power play time on ice. The same as last year. He's also playing the exact same minutes as last year. His point pace right now, point per game. What was his point pace last year? 33 and 82.
Yeah,
that's what I expect it to be. That is what I expect given his minutes, and he has the same power play time on ice, same even strength time on ice. All of it is the same. But what's different now is he got really lucky at the beginning of the season. So if you're holding on to him, if you're having FOMO, or you're seeing and saying, oh, well, maybe he'll he's going to go back to that beginning of the season, that's not his normal. His normal is what he did last season, and he's just going to regress back to that.
Yeah. My next one here, and this is going to be funny because he scored twice and has an assist in the game tonight, but it's Dominic Kubalik, left wing, right wing, 57%. Mentioned him in drop candidates, but think it's worth another mention here. Deployment's not good. He had 12% power play share up till today. I think his power play share is still low. It just happened that the second power play unit tonight cashed a couple of times. So I still don't think there's a lot to be excited about until he gets a shift in line, and I don't think he's worth holding on to. We're seeing 57% of ownership on him on Yahoo, and that is really high for a guy that could potentially be dropping zeros on you all the time. And it's something I actually think is going to happen quite often unless he gets power play 1 deployment and at least top 6 minutes. And not just a top 6 line, because I don't even know what a top 6 line is in Chicago anymore, but at least 16, 17 minutes a game is where you'd want to see him, minimum.
Yep. My next one here, this one's easy. Tony D'Angelo, defenseman, 82% owned.
Yep.
Zero value. I don't understand why he's still 82% owned. I see him being held in a ton of my leagues. Why? He's scratched now 2 consecutive games. Adam Fox looks fantastic up there. D'Angelo adds nothing defensively. And what are the Rangers' problems right now? Defensive. They can't defend. And what's going to be the solution? Put on a defenseman that can't defend even more? It makes no sense. Yeah, D'Angelo to me is entirely droppable and sustainably low. Rest of season. I mean, even if he gets that top power play back, the Rangers power play right now does not seem to be the Rangers power play of last year. That was, in my opinion, way too unsustainably high. And without that, Tony D'Angelo is worthless.
Yeah. I'll point out real quick that Kubelik's power play points both came in under a minute of power play time. So 2 goals in under a minute of power play time. Why not?
Yep.
All right. That actually, I don't have another one because you had Farabee, so I'm out.
Oh, okay. So I have one more defenseman, Adam Boquist. I am out on Adam Boquist at this point, as far as like holding on to him goes. So what has made me change my mind? So a few things have made me change my mind. One is that last game, he hasn't factored into a point in a bit here. The other thing that has made me, he did get a point tonight actually. So he got 1 point tonight. Keith had another 2-point night. So Keith is clearly outplaying him at the moment and also out-minning him. So in the last game, he's still top power play. Fine. So maybe worth it in a deep points league. Here's what I don't like. His minutes have dropped dramatically. He is playing tonight, for example. He got 2 minutes and 39 seconds on the power play. Even strength, he only played 12 minutes and 26 seconds. Dramatically lower than any other defenseman. And so now we see his minutes on the season drop to about 14, 15 on average total in a game. That is so low. And with a defenseman like that, he actually played only 16 minutes last year through 41 games, and he got a 26-point pace. Granted, he has the top power play this year, right? So there is opportunity to do a little bit better there. But how much better from 26 points? I don't think it's that much higher, and he's not shooting, so you're not getting shots, and he's not doing anything on the block or hit side. So there's no reason to hold at the moment. Until those even strength minutes come up, I can't put my faith in Adam Boquist, even in a points league, unless it's the deepest of points leagues that's essentially a dynasty. Adam Boquist just doesn't hold the value for me.
I'm not too worried about him yet. I mean, his minutes, are concerning, but his minutes tonight, he left with injury for part of it, so it's kind of hard to.
That does.
He didn't
change
play the whole
things.
game.
The game before that, though, he did only play 16 as well, for what it's worth.
Yeah, but this game he played 12 total, so it's not great.
A little bit
but,
different.
I mean, he did play. He did miss some time there, so
Yeah, he did. He played 14 total the game before. So tonight he got injured, but before that he played 14 total.
not
So
great.
the minutes have been declining a lot.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then my last one, just to counter Brandon, I am actually putting Mikko Koskinen sustainably low. I think that
For
the
averages league, sure.
I think the Edmonton defense is shambolic enough that I don't want any piece of him. Not even in a points league. I'm thinking about dropping him. I just want to see what Cal Peterson does tonight. If Cal Peterson has a good game, there's a very good chance I swap out Koskinen for Cal Peterson.
In a points league?
In a points league. It counts as
You're
saves.
insane.
But it's because of the goals against. The goals against are killing me. I can't.
I mean, it depends.
I can't live
like,
with that.
So
here's my
any
set it.
points league that has goals against hurt you more than about 5 saves is not well set up, in my opinion.
So mine right now is 3.5 for a win, -2 for goal against, and 0.25 per save. So it's
that's not enough for a save. That's 8 saves to counter out a single goal
I know.
against. I feel like that's not.
So that's why for me in this league, Koskinen doesn't really hold that much value. I'm getting wrecked every night. I'm getting negatives from him. Then he had that one good game. I'm probably going to give him one more game and see what he does. And then after that, that's it. We'll see.
Hasn't he had like 2 decent games and 2 horrific games? Hasn't that what it's been?
2 decent, kind of. So he had one really good game where it was the 2 goals against on 38 saves and a win. And then his last game was decent. It was 3 goals against, 31 saves which
Yeah.
netted
So
me.
he posted a.
You know,
He basically has 2 quality starts and 2 not quality starts.
but even the quality start, the second quality start barely gets me 1.75 points.
That's just because he had a
Nothing.
loss, though. That's because
Yeah.
your league is real weird.
Yeah.
If somebody makes 31 saves and only has 3 goals against, they should get something for that.
They do. He did. He got 1.25 or whatever. But anyways, for me, in most points leagues, I'd say he is not really that worth it. If anything, I'd
It
be
depends,
benching him.
man. I think most points league, like I said, I think the correct ratio is about 5 saves to counter a goal against. And
Well-
in that, he's making enough saves to counter most of that.
That's fair.
Should be.
That's fair.
That's how I would set up a points league anyway.
I just also think the Canadian division is so wild that, like, I don't know. I think there could be so many goals against him there.
I think he's
you
going to
know?
get shelled often. But
Yes.
That's,
that's the
it really
thing is-
depends on your league setup. Of course it does. And I don't
Yeah.
really like him in averages leagues. But
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Do I want
in
to
leagues
risk
that count
getting shelled?
saves and wins and save percentage,
Yeah.
he still has some value.
That's fair.
Save percentage is not going to be good, but the
No.
other 2 should be okay
Be
for somebody
awful.
you get that late.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That is all I've got on Unsustainable. Next week's will be much better. We'll have a whole week of data on players and be able to give you more. Definitely tune in. We don't know what we're doing for Friday yet for the weekend episode. We'll see. We're still figuring out what exactly. Maybe hit us up on Twitter, email us or something to let us know what you'd like to hear on Fridays. We're thinking of some kind of like who to stream on the weekends along with the schedule for the weekend. Keep it short and sweet. I don't know. Maybe let us know what you want to hear. If there's something specific that you'd love to know about on a Friday going into the weekend. And aside from that, we also have Sit Start Saturdays on Saturday. Taking questions, also helping you set your lineups for Saturday. I think it's a busy week, busy day on Saturday this week. Other than that, thank you for listening. We will catch you next time.
Yep. Thanks for listening.